This is my first video update coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus, the final day of 2022. And I hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. And I hope that 2023 brings everyone peace, joy, prosperity, health. That is one of the most important things. So enjoy the rest of 2022 and 2023 right around the corner. So let's talk about some news and let's discuss the S-300 that landed in Belarus. So there was an S-300 missile that landed in Belarus. The Belarusian military, they're saying that this might be a provocation. The Kremlin has come out and they have said that this might be a provocation, a possible provocation from the Zelensky regime, from Kiev. This incident kind of mimics the S-300 missile that landed in Poland about a month ago. And with the exception that no people died in the S-300 landing in Belarus, where in Poland, I believe you had two people who passed away because of that S-300 hitting Polish territory. And then, of course, you have the whole NATO thing and all of that. In the Belarus instance, you don't have the NATO thing. The exact opposite. You actually have Kiev having a missile hit the territory of a country that is allied with Russia. You also had an S-300 way long ago land in Croatia as well. That was a interesting story because the missile made its way all the way to Croatia and landed in Croatia, which is quite a distance from Poland or Belarus with regards to Ukraine. Anyway, was it an accident? Possibly. Was it a provocation? Possibly, probably, in my opinion. But why would Ukraine try to provoke Belarus when at the same time you have Lukashenko meeting with Putin 2 times in 1 week, as well as all of this military positioning and buildup in Belarus? Why would Ukraine try to provoke Belarus? Well, that's the answer. You have this union state that's being formed between Russia and Belarus. You have the troop buildup in Belarus as well. You have the rumors that Russia is going to use Belarus as some sort of launch pad to strike south towards Kiev or to cut off Poland from supplying Ukraine. You have all of this stuff, and it's all focused in and around Belarus. And so my thinking would be that the Zelensky regime, in its desperation and panic, is trying to provoke some sort of action from Russia and Belarus, an action which kind of throws them off their plans and their timelines and widens the conflict out so that the collective West can then focus on not only going after Russia with sanctions and other things, but also going after Belarus as well. You widen the war out. You keep the European Union and the collective West motivated because now they have another demon to go after in Lukashenko and Belarus. Not that they haven't gone after Lukashenko and Belarus, but not to the extent of the way they've gone after Putin and Russia. But you keep the focus and interest there. You put another country into the baddie list, right? And hopefully, if you're Zelensky, maybe you get Putin or Lukashenko to do something that goes against their whatever plans they have. You knock them off their off balance, and you hope that maybe they act with emotion or something like that, and they say, "Damn it, you provoked us with a missile. Now we're going to do this to you." And then if you're Zelensky, you can say, "You see, look, we're also being attacked by our neighbors to to the north and give us more money and more weapons. That's pretty much it. And then the EU can come out and say more sanctions and more weapons, and NATO can say more weapons, and Poland can say more money, more weapons. Let's get some more troops. We're mobilizing 200,000 if you're Poland. You can say, let's mobilize another 200,000 to make it a good 400,000. And you keep the escalation and build up and all of this this momentum going if you're Zelensky and the collective West. So that would be my thinking as to why they would possibly try to provoke Belarus by having a missile kind of plop down on Belarusian territory. It could just be an accident as well. But I don't know. I think all the activity between Russia and Belarus over the last 2 to 4 weeks is absolutely freaking the Kiev regime out, and it's freaking the collective West out. Anyway, that is the story with this missile in Belarus. Let me know what you think. Provocation, accident? What's your take on this S-300 landing in Belarus? Now let's turn our attention to Hollande, one-time French President François Hollande. And he has come out and admitted during an interview with the Kiev Independent, he has admitted that the Minsk agreements were indeed a con job. He's also come out and basically said what Angela Merkel has said. Actually, he's even taken a harder line than Angela Merkel. So when the Kiev Independent was speaking with Hollande, and they asked him about Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, Hollande said that Merkel was right on this point when describing how Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was just a farce. It was a way to buy some time, as Merkel said, to buy some time so that NATO and the collective West can rearm, build, train Ukraine's military for an eventual conflict with Russia. So now you have Poroshenko admitting that Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was a con job. You have Hollande admitting that Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was a con job and they duped Russia. And you have Merkel admitting that Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was all a dupe to buy time for Ukraine. And Merkel has admitted it twice. She's on record twice admitting that the whole agreement was nothing more than a way to dupe and to lie to Russia so that Ukraine could be rearmed. You know what this used to be, everybody? This used to be the Russian Cyprus Bank, and then the sanctions closed it down. And now look at it. That's what this used to be. RCB Bank. The Russian Cyprus Bank. And now it's for rent and it's been gutted. Not because the bank was doing poorly, but because of the sanctions and the Cypriot government had to shut it down. Yeah, right here. Anyway, this is what Hollande said. He said, since 2014, Ukraine has strengthened its military posture. Indeed, the Ukrainian army was completely different from that of 2014. It was better trained and equipped. It is the merit of the Minsk agreements to have given the Ukrainian army this opportunity. Hollande also added that it also stopped the advance of Donbas separatists on Mariupol. I don't know about Mariupol, but Debaltseve and all of these areas in the Donbas, yeah. They had the cauldron in Debaltseve, and NATO was about to, the Ukraine military, along with NATO, they were about to get annihilated in this cauldron, and that's when Merkel and Hollande called up Putin and they begged for some sort of agreement. So that is Hollande. He's admitting that, along with Merkel, that the whole Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 was just one big lie. That's all it was. And you know, the Kremlin, Russia's going to use this interview with the Kiev Independent to say, you see, they were planning to go to war with us all this time. That was the whole purpose of Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. It was done to fool us so that they could prepare Ukraine for conflict with us. That is what the Kremlin is going to say. Hollande actually took a harder line, though, than Merkel. He pointed out that Merkel greenlit the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline in 2015, while Hollande canceled the sale of the Mistral-class ships to Moscow. The former French leader also had harsh words for his American counterparts, accusing Obama of American withdrawal from the international scene in Syria, Donald Trump of undermining NATO, and Joe Biden of the rout in Afghanistan that signaled the weakness in the Western camp to Russian President Putin. Hollande praised Ukrainian President Zelensky for his ability to appeal to the whole world and mobilize the Ukrainian nation, saying this will be central to the outcome of the war and the respect of Ukraine's territorial integrity. According to Hollande, the conflict will end when Russia fails, and then the Minsk agreements can be resurrected to establish a legal framework already accepted by all parties. So Hollande is basically saying, this is great. Hollande is basically saying we conned Russia to agree to Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 because we were about to get crushed in the Donbass in 2014-15. So we conned Russia into setting up Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. We then didn't enforce Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 because we saw it not as an agreement to achieve peace in Ukraine, but we saw it as a way to buy time so that we can rearm and rebuild the Ukraine military for an eventual fight with Russia. And Hollande is saying the outcome is going to be Russia's defeat, military defeat in Ukraine, and then we can return back to Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. So why is Hollande and Merkel and I don't even know where I'm going, by the way. Why are Hollande and Merkel? Why are they coming out with this admission, and Poroshenko as well? Why are they admitting to this? Well, let's discuss this before we get to our clown world. Let's talk about this. Why are they coming out and admitting to the fact that they lied about the Minsk agreements and they had no intention to enforce the Minsk agreements, and that the plan all along was to arm Ukraine so that they could use Ukraine as a battering ram, as Putin calls it, a battering ram against Russia? Why are they admitting to this? Well, you could say that maybe Hollande and Merkel are wanting to come clean because they feel guilty. They have a conscience. No, they're psychopaths. Psychopaths don't feel guilt. They don't have a conscience. They don't feel sorry for lying about the Minsk agreements. So that's not it. You could make the argument that perhaps Hollande and Merkel and even Poroshenko, maybe the globalists are putting them up to this. And they're saying, we want you guys to signal to the world, and specifically to Ukraine, that you were always on their side, even with the Minsk agreements, and that even though the Minsk agreements recognized Crimea and had certain conditions, which Ukraine officials may have seen as beneficial to Russia, your intention was never to enforce that agreement, and you've always been on the side of extremist elements in Ukraine. You can make that argument. Keep in mind, Hollande is a socialist, or at least he pretends to be a socialist. He sounds like he's a neocon warmonger in this interview. But anyway, you can make the claim that maybe they're trying to signal to Kiev and to the globalist elite that, you know, they've always been on the neocon warmonger side of things, even after agreeing to Minsk. It was all just a big farce. We've always been with you guys. We've always subscribed to the plan of using Ukraine as a battering ram. You can make that argument. You can also make the argument that perhaps someone like Merkel is making these admissions because she's looking for a job at, say, the United States, the United Nations as Secretary General. Maybe she's looking for some sort of globalist promotion, and so she wants to show that she's, she was, once again, I was always on the neocon side of things, always. Even when I was negotiating peace in Ukraine in 2015, I wasn't really negotiating for peace. In 2015, I was just looking to buy time for war. So you can make that argument as well. But I think that the reason that Merkel and Hollande are coming clean, the reason that they're doing this, they're making this admission so openly and so freely, is because they're losing. It's because they're losing. And they're losing so bad, militarily, economically, energy, popularity, approval ratings. They see Putin's approval rating is at an all-time high. They see the Russian military really starting to assert itself in Ukraine, and they understand that something big, perhaps a decisive blow, may be coming in Ukraine on the ground militarily. They see the economic situation, and all the sanctions against Russia has just made Russia stronger and richer. They see that the EU economies are crumbling. They see that the collective West economies are crumbling. They see the energy situation. They see the gas and oil situation. They see all these things, and they understand that they are losing. So what does someone that is getting beat by the opponent, hands down, getting beat across the board by the opponent, what does someone do? What is that person? What is that person that's getting a beat down do? They say, yeah, well, you may be beating me on A, B, C, D, and E, but remember that Minsk agreement? Well, haha, I got you there. I got you there. I fooled you there. So there you have it. Take that, Putin. You're not so smart, are you? You're not so clever. Yeah, you may be beating me on all these things, but remember when I outsmarted you in 2015? Aha, you see? That's why they're doing it, in my opinion. Of course, you could say that the globalists have told them to do this, which I'm sure they have. They've told Merkel and Hollande to give these interviews and to make these admissions because I imagine the globalists probably think that this damages Putin's reputation as well in front of the Russian people. You could make that argument. I could see that. I could definitely see that. You paint Putin by coming out and saying that you fooled Putin with the Minsk agreements. You outsmarted him, because that's the way they see it. We outsmarted him with Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. You outsmarted Putin, and so, Putin is kind of looks like someone who didn't negotiate well. And you let the Russian people know that. You see, Putin is not this master negotiator. We duped him. We scammed him. And you try to make Putin look less of a leader than what he is, because Merkel, Hollande, and Poroshenko, they conned him in Minsk 1 and Minsk 2. So I can see that. I can see how they believe that this may actually be a hit to Putin's popularity or his aura, his brand. So that I can see that. Absolutely. Of course, what this really does is it strengthens Putin's position. It strengthens the Kremlin's position, because now they can say, you know what? We, as the Kremlin, we followed international law. We had an agreement. It was approved by the Security Council in the United Nations. Another office for rent. A lot of offices for rent around here. It was approved by the United Nations. We tried to abide and to enforce the Minsk agreement. so that we could have peace in Ukraine. But look at what they did. They did not follow international law. They did not look to enforce the Minsk agreements. And their intentions all this time was for war. And so if you're the Kremlin, you can say, you see, we did the right thing. We tried. For 8 years, we tried to find a workable solution, a solution that benefited everybody. But this was never Europe's intention. This was never Germany and France's intention. So this is going to boomerang to really, really hurt the collective West, even though I think my hunch is telling me that they believe this tarnishes Putin's reputation. That's what they believe. But anyway, let's do a clown world. And in this clown world, we are going to talk about Eurovision, everyone's favorite song contest. Eurovision, and the interview that the Eurovision chief gave to ABBA's Björn Ulvaeus on BBC Radio 4. And ABBA's Björn was filling in for the main host of this BBC show. So he was filling in as a guest host. And he was interviewing Martin Oosterdaal of the Eurovision Song Contest. And Bjorn asked Martin about the decision to exclude Russia and if it was hard to make. And Mr. Martin said, it was, and it still is, how Europe feels very much affects the contest. It is also that when you look back in time, you see that the Eurovision Song Contest is like a logbook of what has happened in Europe, what the trends have been in Europe, but also what is the kind of mood and sentiment in Europe, and what is the social context of Europe at the time. When we say we are not political, what we always should stand up for are the basic and ultimate values of democracy. Everyone is right to be who they are. He added, this will be a Eurovision Song Contest that really shows the values that we talk about: solidarity, reaching out, uniting through music. He's talking about the Eurovision Song Contest that passed, where Ukraine won that the previous song contest, big surprise. And he's talking about the upcoming Eurovision Song Contest, for which Ukraine cannot host because it won the Eurovision Song Contest. It should be hosting this year's Eurovision, but it can't host it for obvious reasons. And so it's going to be hosted in, you guessed it, the UK, of course. Of course, it's the UK. And it's going to be in Liverpool this year. And so he's talking about how this Eurovision Song Contest will show the values of Europe: solidarity, reaching out, and uniting through music. Because the ultimate values, according to Mr. Martin, are the values of democracy. And that is why you have to ban Russia. He's talking about uniting through... We're all about uniting through music, which is why we are going to ban Russia once again from the song contest. Okay. Let's see. In its application, Liverpool had to demonstrate how it would reflect Ukrainian culture, music, and communities if it were to host on behalf of Ukraine. Yeah. It's a clown world on overdrive. So I don't know if there's anybody watching in Liverpool, but in about a couple of months, your city is going to turn into, I guess, little Kiev. I guess it's going to become mini Kiev for about a month, because you're gonna be forced to showcase Ukrainian culture, music, and yeah, yeah, you're gonna have to showcase Ukrainian culture in Liverpool for the Eurovision Song Contest, for which I'm sure Ukraine will win again. I imagine Ukraine's going to win. I mean, who else is going to win? Anyway, interesting comments from this Eurovision chief, this head honcho at Eurovision, whose purpose is to unite through music and to not be political, but they're going to make a political decision to ban Russia. Oh boy, because Eurovision is all about democratic values. I think that 2022, and I'm going to end the video here. 2022 has been the year where we've kind of forgotten the actual meaning of the word democracy. I don't think democracy means what these European officials think it means. I don't think they understand what the word democracy means. Maybe they need to travel to Kiev again, visit with Zelensky, and understand what democracy is by going to a place which is the exact opposite of democracy and has been the exact opposite of democracy for the last 10 years. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. I will leave it there. theduran.locals.com. Look for us on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Telegram as well. And we are also on Rockfin. Have a great remaining 2022. If you're already celebrating 2023 in the new year, have a great celebration. And I will see you soon. Take care.